Hello garden lovers and welcome to Marvin Gardens September 2021. And as a matter of fact, it's September 30th, the very last day of September. Fall has fallen about a little more than a week ago, and it is a delightful, but you could almost call it crisp 62 degrees out. And even though it's September, we've got things happening around here, so let's get to it. We'll start with some of our local participants. Mr. Frankie walking toward us, and Cassie's butt back there, digging up something important, I'm sure. And other than that, we'll start with where we start fairly often, and if not always, and that's Mr. Coco, who is, as usual, hiding behind the towering Asian leeks, most of which have long since bloomed, but some are still blooming a little bit, but they're looking very healthy and happy. And then we have our stand of all kinds of pond irises that have bloomed, and in some cases they're the pods are splitting open and dropping seeds, which means we'll end up excuse me, with even more pond irises. There's a little bit of German winter thyme still down there. I don't know if you can see it, right in front of Cassie's nose there, which is doing okay. But I've mentioned before that we're just expecting that the pond irises are just going to take over this bed entirely. But they haven't yet, because there's also a fairly healthy looking stand of chives right there that Frankie's trampling around on. And there's some not so great looking basil plants, but we've got basil plants all over the place, and they have been very productive this year. Nothing going on in the greenhouse except for our little bonsai tree here, and it's been very happy being in here, and I'm not sure exactly what this is. Looks like maybe it's thyme drying, and we've got some other flowers and stuff drying here that Vanina's going to use for various projects, I'm sure. But let's head over to bed number 1. Oh, that's a pretty nice stand of ornamental grass that Vanina's got going here. Takes them a while to get going, but you can see why they're called ornamental grass. Okay, so here we are in bed 1, and we've got a row of radishes, white radishes actually, and 2 rows of turnips beyond that, part of a late summer, if not fall planting. They need to be thinned a little bit, but other than that, they look okay. And then this is that row of zucchini that had been planted but was not up back last month. But they're up and they're looking pretty healthy now. I've actually got, let me see if I can zoom in there. That's a bloom. Oh, behind the bloom, though, is a little squash. It looks like a crookneck yellow squash. It's supposed to be a zucchini, but we'll see what it turns into. At least it looks like we might get something, as long as we don't get an early frost. Last time I showed you some cauliflowers. The flame star cauliflowers, which is what this row is, have not done much of anything. I don't even know if there's one embedded way down there. The other little ones we pulled, and then these are attribute, which are ready to go, except for that one, which is still coming in. Now, cabbages, these cabbages have been sort of disappointing, small, but this is a nice firm head, so I'll probably get that one before it goes too much further. This is not as firm a head, but this one over here is a nice firm head, but you can see how small they are. Next year I'm going to probably go back to my old standby storage number 4. All right, so here is another planting of some sort of squash, and this is again a late summer planting, so we don't know if we'll get anything out of them. And then the Brussels sprouts, which is kind of a sad story this year. They just, they just didn't really do much of anything. The Brussels sprouts that they're on the plants are, not even big enough to harvest. It's like, okay, well, so much for those Brussels sprouts. We won't be doing that variety again. And then we've got some more summer squash planted here as a follow-up and a late planting. Now, the rest of this bed is the tomatoes, and these are the tomatoes, as you may recall, that were just extra seedlings that we planted back here. And other than the fact they've been terribly overcrowded, which has made it very difficult for Vanita to harvest. But other than that, they've actually been doing better than, or have lasted longer than the ones in the formal official planting of the tomatoes. And as you can see, these are mostly the cherry tomatoes, still very green, blooming, and still lots of cherry tomatoes coming in. And now that I'm looking at it, I see that there's another variety of a larger tomato coming in right there. All right, so, and there's a few hanging out over here too. Or a couple anyway. All right, so there's Cassie doing her thing. And there's my shadow doing its thing. And Jolie, the white blob, sniffing around too. All right, no change in the compost heap. Not really worth looking at over there. But, and I'm sure I'm going to be intercutting stills of harvests, some of which will be melons. All right, so we're in the melon house, or the grow house, which is growing melons this year. And I'm using my iPhone, so excuse the camera work. But I wanted to show you what it looks like when a melon is ready to be picked. Now, if you look down here, you can see that this melon has got all the ribbing and everything on it, and it hasn't got much green on it, as opposed to, like, for example, this one here. Oops, there we go. And although the stem is still got some green in it, if I just wiggle it a little bit, it kind of starts to pull away. Let's see if I can get a little better angle on this. There we go. And so you can see that it's just about pulling away. And so I'm going to call that harvestable, because it doesn't take much pressure before. Whoops, I'm not doing the camera work very well. It doesn't take much pressure for that to just pop off. And so we're going to call this a melon that's ready. And interestingly enough, I found a melon that I hadn't seen before over there. So we've harvested a couple of small melons that I think were of one variety, and I just harvested this one, which I think is the other variety I'm growing, and I've still got 3 more that are good sized melons, and still got a ways to go before they'll be harvestable. So, but I wanted to show you what happens when a melon is ready to go. This doesn't look like much right now. In fact, there's no melons. In fact, there's no melon vines. That one vine that's still going is some squash that snuck in here somehow. I don't even know how. And it's actually got a couple of squashes that may or may not get pollinated and do something. But we did end up getting, I think, a total of 6 melons. A couple of them were small but still delicious, and then the others were actually very nice. And I still have one more that I have to eat. That's basil, and this is a volunteer giant marigold, which is living up to its name. Then this is the kind of improvised pond iris bed, because they come up all over, and I've been transplanting them here. And there's it looks like a squash plant there that's kind of come up on its own. Now this bed was also planted as a late summer planting, some of which is doing better than others. The 3 rows here, my mouth and words are not working very well right now. Please bear with me. Anyway, 3 good-looking rows of scallions there that were started in flats. And then I've got a couple of rows of sunflowers here, and very uncharacteristically, they're not doing well, if anything at all. A few of them seem to be up, but in this row, for example, there's that's the only one that, and it's not doing well. Then we've got black button and florist blue boy, several plants coming in there. Delft blue nigella, I think that's what these are, but I'm not sure. They didn't come in very well. Alpha OG Calendula, that's what these guys are. And they usually do pretty well, and no exception here. And Empress of India Nasturtium, looking good. The nice thing about Nasturtium is even the leaves are kind of decorative. So anyway, I don't know if we'll get the blooms, but I think so. Queen of Sofia Marigolds, they are coming in quite well. These 2, however, violas, I don't think are coming in at all. I think all that is weeds that are there. Now, here's an example of late planted squash that is like, really? We need to grow? As opposed to, the stuff that you saw in the other bed that's coming in and looking pretty healthy. These guys, they don't look bad. They're just tiny. Now, here's our second planting of broccoli, and it looks like we're getting the ones that are succeeding are the same as last time. In other words, just really small heads. They're really the size of what I would expect side shoots to be rather than anything else. And you can see that there was a period there where they got pretty chewed up, but the most recent growth is coming in okay. But that one that I just showed you is literally the only broccoli head. So let's spin around here to bed number 3, and as you can probably see, the ground cherry plants are absolutely done for, and you can also see that we're having the same problem with the eggplants that we've had all year. You know, they start coming in, and they look good as they're coming in, and there's another one down there. Yeah, you can see that. But before they get to a decent size, they tend to, you know, turn that brown and just drop off. So again, probably won't grow this variety again. Meanwhile, peppers every year, peppers are just darn good. In fact, if you're a new gardener, I recommend peppers and tomatoes as 2 starting plants if you don't do anything else, because at least for me, I've had all kind of success with peppers every year. These are dragon roll, and although they are listed as a hot pepper, they are not at all. And then we've got Tangerine Dream, which likewise, although they look like they might be hot when they're red like that, are not. And then California Wonder, these nice big blocky bells, been coming in all summer. They come in green, they're harvestable green, but if you leave them on the line, on the vine, on the plant, they turn that bright red. Now this happens almost every year. There's 1 or 2 pepper plants that just sort of wither, and for no apparent reason. Doesn't look like there's any bugs, no diseases, just don't do well for some reason. But not all of them. And these are thunderbolt peppers, these long kind of horn-shaped ones. They've been coming in quite well all summer long. Now, the lettuce, not so much. These were planted quite a while ago, and I think they might have got chewed up a little bit. There are still some teeny tiny plants that are coming in that might actually turn into something eventually, but right now they're not even harvestable. And that brings us to the other end, and lots of ground cherries on those plants that are totally done for. All right, so now over to bed 4, and these are the straw flowers. I really haven't figured out what to do with these. I mean, it's nice to see them out here, and but they do tend to fall over the other flowers, and I haven't tried really cutting some of them and putting them in a vase or anything like that, but they're nice to see when we're out here. And then these are a cone flower, which have also done okay, but also tend to fall over quite a bit. And speaking of falling over, down here are the what the hell are they called? Oops, excuse me. Status, of course, yes. And they've been coming in purple. There's a new shoot right there, and so they've continued to bloom all summer. But again, I'm not really sure what to do with them. This used to be chamomile, which bloomed pretty well, fell over quite a bit, which seems to be par for the course for these ones that I've picked. And then we've got our okra. There's an okra that should have been harvested a long time ago. I'm sure it's past its prime, but one by one the plants have been dying off, as they typically do, but there's a few that are still producing. Now that brings us to pole beans, and these guys. I'm going to step around here because it's a better view of these asparagus yard-long beans, which are still producing actually pretty nicely, but they have slowed down quite a bit. But there's a few here that are in pretty good shape and will be harvestable shortly. The Kentucky Blues, although there are one or two that are still hanging around, they are done for the most part, and I'm not really sure why. But that's the way it goes sometimes. Now, again, I need to step back to show you the sunflowers. They certainly don't look as pretty as they used to look, but you can see from the number of them that we did have a pretty good sunflower season. I wonder if I can turn straight up and look at that. Now I can't even see the monitor, so I don't know how that's looking to you, because that sunflower is literally facing straight down. But there they are, and I gotta call it a successful sunflower season. And then, of course, we've got 2 dachshunds running around trying to keep up with me, and volunteer pond irises. It's incredible how much they come up all over the place. All right, so here's the main stand of tomatoes, and again, these are the Chadwick cherries. But you can see, for the most part, these plants are done for. Even though some are still green and some are still blooming, but then there's others that there's just nothing left anymore. So we're pretty much done with tomato season. We got a lot of tomatoes though. Now I think some of these, I was going to say they're new squash plants, but I don't know if they are, or just the remnants of the original plantings. They still have some little squash coming in, so we might get some out of this. But as you can clearly see, that's one aging bed of summer squash. Now, this was a row of leeks that last time had not been harvested. This time they have, except for this guy right here, which I left because he was just too small to harvest. So that's where that is. And the bee balm is done for as far as blooming goes, and not looking so hot as far as just the green growth goes, but also that's to be expected in any event this time of year. So what we're gonna do is, as is usual, head out to the asparagus patch, even though there's not much to see. But hang on while I go through the gate here. The gate. Okay. Again. Oh, Frankie, it's okay. I'm just going to be out here for a minute. But anyway, remember last time it was just overrun with weeds, and as you can see, we've got a layer of mulch from the grass clippings from a heavy mowing, and even so, there's some weeds coming up through there because it's been a couple of weeks since then. But the asparagus themselves are doing just fine, and that's all we hope for. I am going to need to get in there and yank some more of those weeds just to get them under control a little bit. But at least it's much better looking than it was last time, and hopefully that will mean we get lots of asparagus shoots to harvest first thing next year. And here's our bog, marsh, the sky mean or marsh, whatever you want to call it. Lots of healthy big cattails, some of which are puffy. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I almost just fell right over. All right, like that guy right there. Yeah, I tripped over the rocks that we got down here as a bottom. And then, like I showed you last time, there also are some cattail plants that have not produced cattails, but they're expanding healthfully beyond our little marsh, which I'm really pleased with how that's looking. All right, let's go back in to Le Jardin. I can't remember what gender the garden is. But anyway, there's a couple of dachshunds. And as usual, they're trying to anticipate where I'm going so that they can be where the action is. So this is the back side of the flower bed. And let's take a quick look at the fire pit area. We did manage to have one fire pit a little while ago. And that was very nice. I'm guessing as the weather cools and other outdoor activities slow down, we'll probably do some more out here. But our perennials, I can't remember the name of these guys, are doing just fine all over the place. And this, I think, is just a late blooming anise hyssop, which is what all these are, most of which are well past their prime, but they should winter over fine in the pots. Succulents are blooming nicely as well, and looks like we got a few marigolds coming in as well. So that pretty much sums that up. So I showed you the greenhouse already, so we'll, much to the chagrin of the dachshunds who are trying to anticipate the fact that I'm going to go out this gate. But I'm going to leave them behind if I possibly can. Oh no, you stay, I'll be back. You stay, I'll be right back. I'll be right back fairly shortly. Here's some, I think, are perennials that Vanina planted. I'm not sure what they are, but she had some lilies and some other stuff that she brought over from another place. Frankie's found something to bark at. Let's see if we can see. Oh, it's a snake. It's a pretty good sized snake too. And it's a snake that is consuming, boy, I don't know if you can see that. He's consuming a frog. Now, that's going to be tough if Frankie gets to him. Because, I mean, like, he's got the, I don't know if I can get it so you can see that. Not that you want to see that. But, it looks like the head of the frog is just still in the process of being swallowed. Frankie's going to destroy that scenario, much to the chagrin of the snake, I'm sure. So anyway, enough of that all true nature. Quite a clear pond. The water lettuce is slowing down. As you can see, the water is nice and clear, and the the fish are actually acting a little hungry, which surprisingly enough they haven't been acting very hungry. I think because they're probably consuming the roots of the water lettuce, which was hard to keep in control. But as you can see, they're kind of swimming around expectantly for me to do something. Now the rest of the pond is still looking quite green, and we still got our resident fairies there, the white one and the bronzy-ish one, and it's nice to look at and see those guys, but not much else really of note, just that everything is looking okay, and Mr. Owl is keeping an eye on things for us. Now the pool is still up, but my intent is to take it down this weekend, because even with the heater, there's no real desire to go in it. So, and you know, it's well past the beginning of fall, so we did have a nice family gathering and spent a fair amount of time, some of the kids and me, in the pool, so that was fun. Our pear tree, nothing on it anymore. We finally pulled the last ones a couple of days after the official start of fall, and the baskets that I think I'm going to be showing you, that's just a fraction of the pears that we got. It was a fantastic pear harvest, and we have yet to figure out what to do with them all, but we'll we just got an amazing yield this year. These are the nectarines, which, as you may recall last time, they turned into those things, which are just sort of moldy things of matter. and the peaches, which we got a fair amount of them. Excuse me, a fair amount of them, and they were delicious. Okay, so Frank is still harassing that poor snake that's just trying to have a dinner. So, oops. Sorry about that. There's Jolie. Let's see if he's, let's see what's going on here. Oh boy. It's really hard to see. Yeah, it's a toad that he's got in his oh no. Oh guys, you should leave that poor snake alone. He's just trying to have a meal, guys. All right, that's enough of that. Oh yuck. Well, let's see. Oh, I feel for the snake. If I wasn't shooting the video, I'd try to get them away. You know, I mean, a snake eating a toad is not pretty, but you know, he's just doing his thing. Anyway, that's gonna do it for us. This is Marvin Gardens, September 2021, September 30th, as a matter of fact. And I hope your guys' fall is getting off to a great start, and nicer than fall has started for that snake. And that's it. I think I've showed you everything and brought you up to date on everything. So we'll see you next time when it will be October. And we'll probably get our first light frost and maybe our first killing frost then. And then things will really be cranking down here. But for now, Marvin Gardens, September 2021. See you next time in October. Bye, everybody.